I don't make music for other people, but I also still deal with social anxiety. It got dark. And don't be sending this one to nobody, bro.
I'm Jordan Astra. Welcome to another Sidedoor interview with the incredible Jessie Reyez. Congratulations, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me, man.
So, second studio album. How do you feel like you've grown as an artist from obviously this album and versus Before Love Came to Kill Us?
I feel like I've grown more as a person, and then by default an artist, but more as a person. Like I feel like I'm more present. I, like a lot of people, went through it during the beginning of the pandemic, and it kind of forced me, like the stark difference in the speed that I was living my life and going hard and just chasing and hustling. It was very nonstop. So then when the world stopped, it went from like shows and hustle and bustle to like four walls and me. So everything that I feel like I'd been running from that I didn't even know I was running from, I had to face. And then it got dark and it was kind of like sink or swim. You either gotta fucking heal or die.
Right.
So I started doing the work, like a lot of self-help books, a lot of taking inventory of my mental state and who I am as a person, and I feel like it shifted me. Reading a lot of Eckhart Tolle made me more present, and by default, I think it's come out in the music too. That it's just a little bit less toxic than usual.
But more deep, more honest.
Deep has always been consistent because truth has always been a constant for me. But because my truth has shifted, I think it's shifted into more openness.
And Before Love Came to Kill Us actually came out in 2020 in the pandemic. So that was, in terms of releasing that body of work into that world that we were in at that time. What was that like for you to try to promote something? Daunting,
scary. I had a lot of hesitation because the project was intended, not that it was intended, but when I made it and you're thinking about content versus context, I was like, oh, this circles and talks about mortality and talks about awareness that like life is short and all of that, right? So it was, I thought of it as like a catalyst for everyday colloquial conversation, and then all of a sudden the world's on a death path. So I'm like, sick, it's not going to be a trigger anymore for a convo. It's going to sound like it's a theme song for the apocalypse, which it wasn't ever what it was supposed to be. And so it shifted things, but then it was like, sometimes you gotta do shit anyway, so we dropped it anyway. So it was daunting.
But timing is a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it all kind of works out, doesn't it?
When you have faith in the greater good, it always does.
I love that. So one thing I had to have a laugh at was, you took to Instagram, you said, I feel like I've had to take a shit for fucking months, and I finally found relief. Take us through the journey.
Take us through your shit.
Take us through, that's that process, but more, the journey of making Yessie. And we touched on a little bit, but how do you keep this under wraps when you're working on something as big as this?
Anybody who's around me knows that I value my privacy. And I also worked with a lot of the usual suspects. Like, I love Tim Subi so much. He's amazing.
He's across the whole project.
He's across a lot of it. And also, like, people close to me, like Jeremiah Thomas, who I've worked with a lot. Like, he came with me from BMG to Universal, and he's just great. But he introduced me to Rikes, and he also has a really good gauge and understanding of like what my energy is and who I might resonate with. And Rikes is who he introduced me to, and Rikes is also all over the project. On top of like working with really great musicians and collaborators, it was also learning that no is a full sentence, and recognizing that I didn't want a lot of chefs in the kitchen. And trusting my intuition a lot more. If anything, like working out my intuition a lot more so that I could use it and have it in my arsenal when approaching this project. So that shifted too.
And you're, as a producer as well, you're obviously across everything as well. Do you find yourself, from a producer standpoint, kind of navigating the direction of the album, or do you feel like you're actually producing it or focusing more on the sonics of it?
Navigating the album as a whole is something that more so comes at the end for me. Some people like to do concept albums, and like, I fucking hate that shit because it gives you like boundaries for creativity. And again, some people like it. Some people like walking into the room and approaching songs that way, being like, oh, let's make a song about this today. But I fucking hate that. I hate that. because I just feel like it's not free flowing. And so it was more so just talking about and making shit about my life, you know? And then once it's out, then assessing and editing and restarting. And God bless the producers, because they had a lot of patience for me being like, I like this song, I don't like the production, we need to start again. V2, V3, V4, getting to V22, and then at V22 being like, actually V4 was it.
Yeah.
And people being like, okay. That okay and that respect is just very appreciated, because I know it's not easy to work with someone whose process is like that, you know, because it could feel like a waste to anyone that's not me. But because it's me and I'm like, no, intuitively, I feel like this is what we're supposed to do. I trust me and I'm happy I did, because I'm happy with the project. But that's how it was, that's how it's different. And that's how I feel like I take hold of it, but I take hold of it after. So in the moment, in the room, it's not me. It's like up to whatever God gives.
Yeah.
And then building the album is different. Building the album is more of a conscious effort.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask because I'm curious, or do you find yourself as an artist who loves to dive into a record? You talk about multiple versions, right? Do you like to dive into songs until you really get those versions right? Or do you like to work on a bunch of different songs and then narrow it down?
The day of in the studio, you're second, the latter.
Yeah.
Because it's a bitch to
knock
like,
it out.
no, to do ideas, to do like 5 ideas and then be like, okay, this is the one. Because God forbid you spend the day 5 hours, 6 hours working on something that turns out to be shit. That sucks. But it's better when you do, in my opinion, it's better when you do 5 or 6, because then you'll be able to see what shines a little more and what sticks a little more. And you're like, oh, that one, that's indicative of like the potential there. And then that's the rabbit hole that you decide to go down to build off of. That's what I prefer. But I definitely took a different approach in terms of being willing to recut certain things and tell people that we needed to work on multiple. That's a new approach that I took this time around, yeah. Because before I was leaning more into the rawness, and I had a friend once tell me, he was like, you should finish the song as much as you can the day that you make it, because essentially your song is just a photo of a memory that happened. If you're coming from a real place, your song is a photo of a memory.
Wow.
And the more that you do that, the more that you're, the more that you replicate it and the more that you finesse and nudge and touch and edit, the more that you're losing the potency of the original memory. And I used to subscribe to that school of thought so deeply that it made me reluctant to want to polish because I wanted to lean into the raw. But part of me growing as an artist, I think, has been like trusting my intuition that sometimes that's the case, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes shit needs to be beat to death.
Super subjective.
You know what I mean? It's super subjective, so it's song by song case.
And what were some of the goals that you wanted to achieve on this album? Did you have any expectations that you wanted to set with it?
The purist and the artist side of me, no, because I just want to make the same reason you breathe to breathe, the same reason a fish swims, the same reason the sun shines. It's just because it is what it is. The businesswoman in me and the woman in me that's like cognizant of like, yo, I have a team that I'm feeding. I have like all through this. So yeah, the fuck, growth, success, legacy, mountains. So that's it's weird because it's a duality. It's both, but I keep them separate because like in the room when I'm creating, I'm not thinking about that. But then afterwards, when we're talking about like strategy and marketing and all that shit and stats, which I don't love, but it's something I've had to learn, like becoming financially literate to understand how to reinvest and all this shit. It's a thing that I've thought about, but I don't think about when creating. It's something that's after the fact so that it doesn't poison and taint this, you know?
Yeah. And the business side, would you say you love it? Do you like it?
No, I fucking hate it, but I have to, I could say I hate to swim, but if you throw me in the deep, I better know how. You know what I mean? So it's that. I don't really like it, no, but I've had to learn.
Yeah. Now we've got a Calvin Harris cut, Tito's.
Tito's.
So how does this come about?
He's dope. He's great. We've worked a lot. I love him off as a creative and as a dude. He's a friend, you know? And we were just vibing at his studio. One of those days where we make like 4 ideas, and then this one, I was like, I love this one. Don't be sending this one to nobody, bro. And he was like, okay.
Because it could have made Funkwave for sure.
You know? But I'm happy I kept it. I'm happy he let me keep it.
Now, the transition from Tito's to Only One is probably one of my favorite moments in the actual album.
Thank you. Shout out Jeremiah Thomas.
It's so cool.
Yeah, man. My boy was like, I have an idea.
It's flawless because it's I'm pretty sure it's 2 different keys, 2 different tempos, but yet it still works.
It works, yeah.
It worked so nicely.
Yeah, right?
So how important is it for you, with everything going to be very playlist curated, very singles focused, how important is it for you to still be releasing projects, like albums? Because that's an album move, in my opinion.
Thank you. It's not in my hands how people consume shit. So that's up to God. All I could do is prepare for anyone that wants to take it in as a project. So that's what I did, you know? Like, this is a very industry-ass conversation when people are like, oh, like, are the single days here, and are the project days over? Because, like you said, like, a lot of it's playlist driven, and people's attention spans are just getting shorter and shorter by the day. So to ask someone for 36 minutes of their day is a big ask. What the hell? Don't you get like friends that send you like minute-long videos on text? And I'm like, bro, a minute? Who you thinking you're sending this to? Because I'm not, you know? So it's a lot. But I've always said that I'm like, it's crazy because there's certain artists that can ask that from, like if Kendrick drops an album, I'm like, take an hour of my time,
Yeah,
brother.
that's right.
Take it. If Beyonce does it, take it. So I was like, man, if it's going to hit who it's supposed to hit, and it's going to sit with whoever it's supposed to sit with as a project, you know? And whoever is supposed to find one song is only going to find one song, and it's just what it is.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm an album guy, so
Let's go.
Now, what were some of the more meaningful memories when creating this project for you? What's something that stands out for you?
The outro of Emotional Detachment, I wrote.
Crazy.
Thanks. I wrote in my crib in Toronto, and it was a jam. Like, I was freestyling. It was one of those days where I was like, oh, this could go on TikTok. Thought of something, boom. And then it went viral. And I was like, the hell? And then I put it aside, and then go to LA and finishing the album. And then we were making song selections, and I was like, yo, Emotional Detachment, which was originally called So Bad, when it was originally just the front half of the song, I was like, it sounds so dismal. It sounds so sad. And it's not, this is after it was written, me reaching into a memory, but as a woman feeling like I'm like, I don't want it to be this dismal because it's not where I'm at. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe in sitting in sadness anymore. I don't believe in it. And I was like, I need to paint the arc, and I need to make sure I could like just do this. And then I thought about that, and I thought about all the threats I had in the comments of like, if you don't put this on the album page, if this isn't a fucking single, bitch. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I can incorporate it. And then I finessed and wiggled and tried, and I was able to do it. And so the front half is in LA with Timmy, and then the middle of Emotional Detachment demo was me in my crib in Toronto. And then the second half, like the outro, was when I decided to make it an actual song, and that was in Paris with my guitarist Heather. Like, that's Heather going off at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nice little puzzle.
And then you have 5 minutes of
Emotional Detachment.
bracket demo.
Yeah, bracket demo.
Love it. Now, you recently did a release party in LA, very star-studded. What was the event? Take us through the day. What was it like?
Stress. That's the
Really?
day. Yeah. What? I'm not really a party
never done
kind
it,
of. Yo, do you like parties?
I do, yeah.
Good for you.
I'm a pop-in, pop-out kind of person, though.
Oh, you're a ghoster.
Yeah.
You're a, what's that called again?
Yeah,
The Irish exit?
Houdini or the Irish exit?
Yeah. That's nice.
No, I'm not. Honestly, I'll say my goodbyes, but like,
You say your goodbyes?
yeah. I'm just not a drinker. You know, I show up for like an hour, say hi, and then.
An hour's a solid chunk.
Yeah, that's more
That-
than just a pop in.
Yeah, that's more than a pop-in. I'd be a popper.
Toronto goes till 4 in the morning, so I mean, like, if I show up at like 11, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Pop in and pop out.
True.
So
Well-
you were stressed.
Yeah, because it's album release, so it's obviously, like, the party was lit, but the party isn't what I'm, like, there's a
whole
lot.
day.
Well, of course, because you're thinking about, there's just a lot of things that go into release. And obviously I work with a great team that helps bear the burden of a lot of it. But I also still deal with social anxiety. So there was a lot of, like, the team wanted to have the party, and I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. But I'm happy that I agreed to it, and I'm happy I went through with it. But the day was a lot of work till the end. It was a lot of work.
Yeah, it's real. I mean, we only get to see the night, but it's the whole day.
It's the whole day. But I made time for yoga class, which was nice.
So, what's the takeaway for you on this album? And what do you want fans and new listeners to really take away?
I don't make music for other people. I've always said that it's a very intimate thing for me because I talk about my life, and the fact that people connect is a really beautiful byproduct, and it's a blessing God gave, because it's not lost on me that it's crazy that I'm able to be a working musician. You know, there's a lot of people that want to, and it's fucking hard to get into and like finally get a check off something that seems crazy to get a check off of, because it's just creating, you know? So I make it for me. So anything that people get is just like, I hope you get whatever you're supposed to get. I hope you get what you're supposed to get. That's the artist in me. The businesswoman in me is very happy to have retired my parents, very happy to be giving checks to my team, very happy to be building up legacy. But for the art, it's just, I wanted to make it because that's why a fish swims, and that's why the sky is blue, and that's why the sun shines, you know? My name is Jessie Reyez. Yessie is out now, and I start tour in about 2 weeks, baby. You hear that siren? That's on brand, because it's about to be a problem.
Okay, perfect. Cut.
Thank you. Thanks.